This one's on? I could use this? Yes! I don't like podium.
I haven't been in there in a long time, but this one I know. I used to be principal here, so I know this one. Yeah, this building, I was 5 years here before I went to the high school. Hill, I wasn't at. I was at Middle Smithfield. That was my up there. Yeah, it is a nice. It was always nice for assemblies. And, yeah, and we were able to use like we could close it. We used to use the back for classes. Yeah, you could do a lot with it. The chairs used to be hard to play.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah. I'm thinking she moved. I thought she left.
Good morning. No, come on. We have assemblies in this space. Good morning. I can't believe that's the level of energy that people have brought to this meeting. There's a lot of emotion here. That's the best good morning we can get? One more time. I'll take it. Good morning. So I am Maggie Vitale, and I'm the superintendent of the East Stroudsburg Area School District. First of all, welcome. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being engaged community members, and thank you for listening and then coming forward and speaking your mind. We really appreciate it. Our job is to make an informed decision about how to move forward as a district. That decision might be everything's great, leave it the way it is, or it might be some small changes, or it might be some significant changes. All we ask is that we listen. I never have notes for when I speak, but I want to make sure I say all the right things that I'm supposed to say today. So one is, again, thank you. Two is, stay calm. There's emotionality here. We're not making a decision now. We're not even making a decision this year. We're making a decision of how to focus into two decisions. So relax, share your mind, share your perspective, and just realize that this is one of many opportunities you are going to have to share your voice. Let me go over kind of what the process is and where we've been and where we're going. When I first started in this school district, I met with each board member, and each board member kind of expressed different concerns. Some talked about the fact that when students go to Resica or Middle Smithfield, when they go then to the intermediate school, they're split. So they've been establishing these great relationships with their friends for 6 years, and then we split them. We split Resica 50-50. 50 of the students go to Lehman, 50 come here to JTL. Middle Smithfield's about a 75-25 split. So the board was like, we really want you to look at that, okay? Then the board started talking about magnet schools and academies and alternative ed schools. Okay, so that's another bucket of things to consider. And then they started talking about J.M. Hill. And J.M. Hill was built in the 1920s. It's a beautiful school. And renovations, right, wrong, or indifferent, have been delayed until a decision has been made whether we're going to do a massive renovation, whether we're going to rebuild, or whether we're going to walk away from that property. So they came to me with three really big ideas. Although I think I'm a competent person, I was like, those are really three big, large projects that we would need to consider and understand. So we hired a firm, RLPS, to partner with us. We did that last spring, and we've been working with them since the summer on looking at our facilities. They've been in our facilities, they've toured our facilities, they've looked at roofs and mechanicals and the educational spaces, they've evaluated all the programs that we offer, and then they're going to offer us options of how we can use our space. To be really clear, RLPS has no dog in the race. In fact, for some people who are frustrated with their options, they have an opportunity, if we do a construction, to bid and be part of that process. So actually, if we close a school, they're losing a potential opportunity, right? So like literally, they have no dog in the race. They have been a great partner with us, and they've done great work in kind of helping us look at big and broad. What could our options possibly be? We rolled it out to our board December, and then we're holding this meeting. And then in February, after we do the survey, I'm going to come back with the survey results, and then we're going to talk at the board meeting about where we're at. And my goal is to get to, we have 5 options. My job is to get to 2 options in the spring, March, April, for the board to choose 2 of those options, always with status quo being an option. Now, the options are kind of like an a la carte menu. Although we bundled them, if we wanted to consider an academy but not consolidate the 2 high schools, okay, we can do that. But there was an infinite way we could have packaged this, so we just kind of packaged it as 5 concrete options, but they're not. It's super fluid, and the board will make a decision of which way to go. From there, this late spring, they're going to tell me 2 options. Then I'm going to spend the whole year next year exploring what those 2 options are. So if we consolidate schools, I'm going to have to understand what is the transportation route for a student in Hemlock Farms to come all the way down to South High School. What does it look like for a student in Henryville to go up to Lehman Intermediate School for a 5 through 8 building? We haven't done any of that because I hope you realize these 5 options are big, sweeping options. So we just said this is possible ideas. I'm not going to explore possible ideas because that's all I would be doing. So once they narrow their focus, then I will explore what those possible ideas are. We will talk about it openly. We will have more town hall meetings. We will have question and answer sessions. We will have meetings where I'm going to the townships and the borough meetings and engaging not just our families and our employees, but our taxpayers and those who do not have students. But we're not there just yet because honestly, I think it's a little premature because I'm here and I just need to be here with what I'm thinking. So we're going to do a lot of listening sessions. We're going to do a lot of question and answer sessions. We're going to get there. This is just your initial take. So we can almost like take your temperature. You know how like when you go to the doctor and they take your temperature, they take your heart rate, they say your vitals, something's high, then they know to look further. If we get a temperature that we have a lot of concern, then we know to look elsewhere. That's what this is. We're kind of taking the temperature of the room. Okay. So background information, let me go back to the timeline. So next spring, I would ask them to make one decision. So spring of 27, they would decide on the one, after we've investigated all aspects of it. We're not going to do it then in September of 27. Then I need that whole year to plan what that looks like. So none of this even starts until 28, 29, because we want to spend a lot of time investigating all of the possible outcomes, unintended and happy, unintended and not so happy, right? So like we have to look at every aspect of it. So we're years away from anybody feeling these impacts. All right, some background information on what some words mean, because people weren't really sure. A magnet high school. A magnet high school is creating a high school that's like a high school for the performing arts. So it's a school that really just focuses on performing arts. So all of your basic general ed classes, your English, your math, would be surrounded around, and really a curriculum will be built around performing arts. The board hasn't given a direction of what magnet school we're looking at. It could be performing arts, it could be STEM, technology, it could be health and human services, it could be education, it could be all of those, and we just have academies. But a magnet school really is a specific school where students have to apply for entrance into that special programming within our programming. And 9th grade academy is on the list. So 9th grade students are high school students, but sometimes their maturity level isn't where an 18-year-old is. So a lot of school districts have 9th grade academies where they run it very similar to a teamed approach like we do in middle school. So it's a soft launch transition into high school. If we did the 9th grade academy here and we consolidated schools, they would still be in our clubs, in our athletics, in our activities. They would still be whatever the mascot is, Cavaliers, here, but they would just be in a different facility and not connected to the high school. When we talk about renovation of JM Hill, we would need to replumb, rewire, almost picture going down to the studs and fixing some of the things from the 1920s, then the renovation of the 1990s, and just renovating it and making it updated space. When we talk about a new construction at JM Hill, we're talking about building a new school on the back part of that property. Not purchasing a new piece of property, but still having it there, just on the back side of it. Now, we have not, and this is going to be a question, we have not investigated if we build a new school while construction is happening, if we have enough space to use the current school, right? So if you think of, we have 5 acres there, you would need the footprint of the new construction, the footprint of the current building, and then staging areas. So we don't know that just yet. That would be part of the exploration process. And then, again, you have a menu board of options. Today's logistics. We are only taking comments today. You're going to have questions. You're going to see me over there feverishly typing all of your comments and your questions. Those questions are good things for our board to consider, but I'm not going to be able to answer them. One, because of how many people are going to speak, And two, because I might not have answers, because if you go back to the beginning, we haven't fully investigated this. I just want the board to narrow down their take. RLPS is going to do their presentation once I stop chatting up here. Then we're going to turn it over to you. So I'm going to go in order of however I have the cards. And we just ask that you, one, that you're respectful. Two, I understand that there's emotionality to it. I was an elementary teacher. My elementary building was near and dear to my heart, and I loved my space. And as a parent, I get it. But we're just going to ask that you keep a level of decorum and respect. We're a strong community. Let's show that we're a strong community, and we can have respectful discourse. We can disagree respectfully, but we're not even disagreeing yet. All we're doing right now is just hearing from you. So we'll go through everybody. We'll have a 3-minute time limit for everybody. As you offer questions, I'm going to kind of create a list of what your questions are, and then I will figure out how to get responses back to you. So almost like an FAQ, we have all of your names, but how can we publicly say these were the questions that were asked, and here are some of the responses that we have initially. So that is our format. Are we ready for the fun to start? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to RLPS. Thank you so much.
I'll take the podium for now. Thank you. Hello, and let me try that again. Hello, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's great to see the turnout that we have here today. Just introductions. My name is Chris Linke from RLPS Architects. I have two co-presenters with me today. Andy Bladen, he's a senior project architect from our office, and Aaron Hoffman, who is a partner and a senior project manager from our office. So, getting into it. So for this town hall meeting agenda, a couple of things that you're going to see. We had presentations to the board back in November and December, so it's going to be a repeat of that information, but that's going to include talking about the building assessment, the priority list that was created along the way, options that we are proposing, and then the next steps. And after we get past the next steps, Dr. Vitale just outlined them well. We'll reiterate them. Then that's where the comments and concerns from everybody here will take place. So to get us started, Andy Bladen is going to go through the facility assessment portion of this presentation.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dr. Vitale, and thank you everybody for showing up today. So, as Chris indicated, I'm going to start here with the existing building assessments. Really a foundation of any study is us as a design team understanding where you're at as a district. And so, as Dr. Vitale and Chris indicated, we had the opportunity to see every single one of your buildings throughout the district, from the building and the auditorium here that we're in right now, up to the North Campus and the sewage treatment plant in the North Campus. We have covered all the ground with our team. So every nook and cranny. Ourselves as architects, our engineers went along with us on those site visits to your facilities. And when we conduct a site visit, we don't just do it in a vacuum. We show up on site, and the very first thing that we did was meet with all your chief administrators from each building, as well as your custodial facility team from each building, understanding where their pain points and challenges were with your existing facilities, where their positive points were, not just with building condition, but also with how the building operates educationally for you. And so, again, we had the opportunity to understand where you're at right now as an existing district. And good, very touchy pointer. We got it now, though. So it's always good to understand where you're at right now. As you all know, you do have a large district, just shy of 650 acres. I like it by the numbers here. 1.4 million square feet to take care of and utilize to educate your children, and just over 6,200 students at the time that we developed this portion of the study. Knowing that your enrollment fluctuates from time to time, but not going to spend the time today to go through the assessments for every building. You wouldn't want to be here all day hearing us talk about every nook and cranny. So high level evaluations and assessments. As Dr. Vitale said, You have a number of buildings. The oldest building from the 1920s, the newest constructed in 2008, around 2008, just about 20 years ago. Your buildings themselves reflect a history of good investment and good, solid buildings. It's always exciting to see that investment in well-built structures. And once they're built, your buildings have a wonderful history of good maintenance and care by your district staff and facilities teams. But that doesn't mean that your buildings from an educational and an infrastructure standpoint don't have their challenges. Any district does with their buildings. And so some of the common themes that we see throughout your district as a whole are highlighted here on the screen. And some of those high flyers that we just wanted to touch on today are really those first four. So building capacity and use really ties into that second point of future-ready spaces designed for program needs. Your newest building was designed just shy of 20 years ago. Other buildings designed and built prior to that, and designed for how they educated in that day and age, not necessarily designed for how your educators educate your students today or looking into the future. And so how your existing buildings are used, we noted that from a capacity and a use standpoint. Another thing that came to light from our observations and discussing with your professionals within the district is just an equity piece at the elementary level. Again, not necessarily from a building condition, whether it's an old building or a new building, but also the academic spaces that are provided within each of your buildings. And then last but not least, because it is important, while you have a history of maintaining your buildings well as a district, there is a strong history of system improvements without educational upgrades. So what does that mean? That means that you have a history of going in and replacing the lighting in a classroom or replacing the floor finishes without really doing a comprehensive, holistic renovation of a space to bring it up to future-ready standards, for instance. And so there's nothing wrong with that approach, but as education and how education is delivered over time keeps progressing, it provides the opportunity for some of those academic spaces to fall behind, if you will. And so those were some items that were noted. And from a safety and security standpoint, some additional keyless entry points at exterior doors. There's always the opportunity to enhance safety and security as you go move on through time with your facilities. So those are some high-level observations, and what we do as a team then is distill that down into a spreadsheet like this. And so, and I'm not getting emotional up here. I apologize. My voice is just a little wavering, as I'm sure some of yours are as well this time of year. We utilize a 4-point scale to take the emotion out of the evaluation, where a number 4 would be a like brand new facility that was just opened its doors yesterday. And as you go down this scale, it indicates that the building has more needs in a certain aspect of the evaluation. Not just going through the buildings, as I've hopefully said a few moments ago here, from just a condition and bricks and mortar and system standpoint. Starting on the far right, part of that evaluation is discussing with your administrators how the buildings are being used educationally, and then providing a score related to that. So that's where you see the educational evaluation, hopefully in the far right columns there. Those get added to and averaged with that building condition score, which you see in the central 4 columns of the chart. And then last but not least, that gets totaled into that far left column, the overall building assessment. Again, it gives us a grade and kind of a metric or a framework by which to evaluate your buildings and compare buildings from one to the other.
Sorry, water break, please.
Thank you, sir. All right. I swear this never happens to me. Usually in pretty good shape here. So, and just highlighting some of those facilities, such as JM Hill, where we look at an overall condition assessment and the site evaluation to get an overall building evaluation score as it relates there. That just kind of covers what I just discussed. Aaron, I think this is the time for you to take over, and I'll interject where needed.
I'll give you a break.
Thank you.
So I'm going to cover, I got to bring the mic down. I'm the short one of the group. A little bit about enrollment. So we look at your historical data of your enrollment over the last 10 years. And as you can see, just high level, your kindergarten is usually where your smallest group of students is. However, you will notice that as you go up in years, your 9th through 12th grade is your biggest classes pretty consistently through the last 10 years. But one of the things that we wanted to draw attention to was a comparison of this year's enrollment, which was 6,244, back to 10 years ago. And I apologize, the numbers are disappearing a little bit, but it is 6,899 back in 2015-16. So that really is a differential of 650, I can't even read my numbers, 655 over the last 10 years of your enrollment going down a little bit. So we really want to look at those trends and what that means for the overall district in comparison to moving forward as well. So one of the things that we do with that information, as Andy talked about the tangibles in the building, we also look at how they're used and what the capacity is of each of the buildings and how your students are distributed throughout the district. And so we wanted to take a look at what are your options, what are your possibilities for the building. So if you take a look across the chart, you can see that PlanCom, which is Department of Education's required, how they use and facilitate the buildings and the capacities, what that number is. That's not typically a realistic number on how your school district uses it. You use your buildings at about 80% capacity. So there's where you'll see the difference between that 9,600 capacity and that 7,600 capacity. Today, you're really not at that full capacity, and so we wanted to really compare that to what if there is growth in the district? What if there are new community starts? And really understand what that potential housing impact would be on your facilities. And we're really able to look at the impact of growth, potential compared to what you have now. And some of the things, and hopefully Andy has a little bit of his voice back, but to be able to explain the differences of the 0.3 students per household.
Oh, absolutely. So, when we're talking about enrollment, and every study does contemplate that and that effect on a facility, and we look at municipalities and where housing starts may be occurring. Every community gets concerned. So many, there's going to be 200 houses up in this community potentially being built or what have you. But what we've seen over time, the numbers reflect it here in your district, but as we look at districts statewide, where 20, 30 years ago, you might have seen numbers of 0.4, 0.5 students per household. It's just a very typical trend within the state of Pennsylvania that we're down near that 0.3 student per household number now. So what that means for you as a community, that if you have X number of houses and now there's less students per household coming out of those, as you add more housing to your overall school district, the impact of that housing is just naturally less as time moves on here. And so it's just interesting. I think we all have it in our minds what the impact of developments and additional housing were, again, 20, 30, 40 years ago. But because of the student per household ratio has been reducing, or at least that's a trend that we definitely see across the state. That impact is just less this day and age. So something important to highlight, right, Aaron, as we're looking for future planning for your district.
That's correct. So there's really a significant amount in number of houses or new housing starts that would have to come into the community in order to get you back to even the level of 10 years ago. So there's a significant change that would need to happen in the overall school district and new housing starts. So Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So what Andy and Aaron really covered is when we get into evaluating a facility and start developing options, the first part is that data collection. It's assessing the buildings, assessing the capacity, and assessing how you educate your students currently. So it's a big part of our engagement piece, and Andy and Dr. Vitale talked about us walking through the buildings. We gave homework to the principals, so when we got into the buildings to look through them, we understood how those buildings were being used other than just the sticks and bricks. Through all that, we've had steering committee meetings since June, a lot of engagement, we collect a lot of information, and we develop your needs and wants list. Then we use a system called the Moscow system, the must-have, should-have, could have, and won't have to develop levels of priorities. What's most important, what's important to consider, and what do we not want to do going forward. So as with this priority list, the Moscow list, we have this as an ongoing piece it's a live document. We continue to look back, we continue to ask questions, we continue the test as we develop these options, and this list continues. But just high level, I'm not going to go over every one of them on the options list, but under the must-have, Dr. Vitale talked about coming into this, what they wanted to accomplish. You know, align your elementary schools with your high schools so you didn't have students going apart, coming together, and going apart. Address J.M. Hill, the elementary school, but other ones that often follow in the must-have is safety and security and being financially responsible with any option that we take. And financially responsible doesn't mean upfront cost, ongoing cost. The second part of that is should have. We talked about the capacity of your schools and right-sizing the capacity in each one of those schools. The rest on that list really talks about programming and how you want to educate and things that you want to accomplish with the different options educationally in your buildings. And then we move to the could have. And this is where we start to develop the holistic approach to options. We're not just giving you one way to solve this, but if you could have, what are different ways to look at it? While it's a paper exercise, you're asking the question, how many different ways can we solve this answer and what is best for the school district? We use all of these. The last one I hate to say is the won't have, and we don't have a lot on there, but typically one we talk about in the won't have is we don't want to do things the way we've always done it. We're looking for your school district and education for the next 20 years, so we don't want to say this is the way we've always done it. We want to be open with our thoughts on this, and that's a lot where the options come out of. The last thing we want to say is we will have 5 options, and we want to give you a tool to evaluate these options. And that tool starts with this Moscow list. It becomes an evaluation matrix. It becomes a rubric for the school board to use to almost try to take emotion out of it and make more of a number system when you start addressing that. Now I will turn it over to Aaron to discuss the options.
So I do have to apologize a little bit for the colors. They're washed out, but hopefully on your sheets you're able to see and understand where we're going. But we have 5 options to review today. These are the same options that the school board saw at the last in December, and really we want to recap that information and present to this morning. I'm used to school board meetings this morning, and then open up for comment afterwards. So we start with option A, as Dr. Vitale had talked about. We always look at a status quo. What if everything was maintained? What are the impacts? We would not look at grade reconfiguration and keeping all of your buildings. This is really your status quo preventative maintenance component. So here you'll see all of the 6 elementaries, 2 intermediate schools, and 2 high schools would maintain in this option. As we look at each of the buildings individually, we look at capacities and what is available in each of the buildings, and we really look into what is left for a growth potential or any changes in curriculum. Programs are always changing. State mandates require additional space in buildings, not necessarily financial support on all of those, but you have to be able to provide those programs in the building. So do you have the space to be able to do that? And in your current state, in option A, you definitely have additional capacity for additional students or programs at all levels within the district. As you can see, we have both high school south and north in this option, maintain J.T. Lambert and Lehman, and then your 6 elementary schools as well. So there is additional capacity and square footage available at all of your buildings as you operate today. As we move to option B, this again gets back to one of the points that Dr. Vitale pointed out earlier, was the 2 elementary schools, Resica and Middle Smithfield, which split. and that is a challenge where the students come together for elementaries, but then they end up going to different schools, and those friendships become a challenge. So one of the questions that we received from the board was, how do we make that work together? So redistricting, looking at those elementaries, making sure that the students are going to the correct high schools and they're staying with their peers throughout the duration of their educational process. This one, again, maintains all of your buildings throughout the district and keeps all of those components, but this one really starts to address what happens at JM Hill. We rebuild, do we renovate that building? What are the impacts and the cost implications that go along with that component? Again, this one is very similar to option A, keeps your grades, but it really just realigns and really directs the elementaries to their high schools as students move up through. So you'll see capacities in the buildings are similar to what you have now, and really giving you that opportunity to expand or change building program and capacities of students. In option C, we start to look at what are additional options and opportunities to right-size your buildings. So because you've had declining enrollment, as we talked about over the last 10 years, you have additional capacities in your elementary schools. It may look as changes in the use of your buildings and where students are located. So we're looking at the opportunity of eliminating an elementary school from this option to be able to right-size your buildings for more efficiency, long-term operating expenses, and the impact of your overall costs for running all of the buildings in the district. So option C looks at the opportunity to potentially sell JM Hill, as that is your oldest, most challenged building. So as Dr. Vitale had talked, is it a renovate, is it a rebuild, or is it a sell or not use the building anymore? So this really gets you to right size your elementary schools. Your intermediates and high schools would stay the same size, but really understanding the capacity, where students are aligned, and using your elementary schools efficiently and effectively, still allowing for additional capacity in those schools. So you'll see there's still 400 plus available capacity at that elementary level when we use 5 of the elementary schools. Option D really looks into what are some big moves, big shifts in the school district. What can we look at? So we look at grade realignment and realigning the entire district. What makes most sense? Again, this really looks like maintaining the 6 elementary schools, however, changing the grade configuration to a K-4 at your elementary level. And then we take the mix of Russica and Middle Smithfield out of the mix because we go to 1 intermediate, which is grades 5 through 8, and then 2 high schools. Little bit of asterisks on this. This is where Dr. Vitale talked about the magnet schools or the academies, where it would be 2 buildings, but really operating as 1 high school for that magnet school at that 9th through 12th grade. Yes, thank you for that. So again, as we look at this, and the change that we did keep was to maintain all 6 elementaries and looking at the option of renovating or rebuilding JM Hill, but still looking at your capacity. So by keeping 6 elementaries, we are also eliminating a grade for those elementaries, so we're not K-5, we're K-4, which gives you additional capacity at those elementary school levels. So you'll see that number is significantly higher for additional space at the elementary schools. And then option E really looks at the opportunity for a 9th grade academy. As Dr. Vitale had talked about earlier, that change and that transition to high school is a big one in that 9th grade, and a lot of school districts have talked about or discussed that 9th grade academy, and we have seen it significant positive impacts throughout school districts who have gone the direction of 9th grade academy. And this one, again, then looks at what are the opportunities to sell or not use J.M. Hill anymore, which is that 5 elementaries you'll notice on this. Again, noting that it is a K4, not a K5 for the elementaries that are remaining. 1 intermediate school, which is grades 5 through 8, a 9th grade academy, and then 1 high school with 10th through 12th grade. And here we look at the opportunity to use South High School as your main 10th through 12th, J.T. Lambert, this building, as your 9th grade academy, with potential of using as for MCTI students, because there's additional capacity in this building to be able to accommodate that. This option also gives you an opportunity to expand academies or magnet programs into JT Academy for JT Lambert for the academies moving forward. And then using the North Campus, Lehman Intermediate School combination for your grades 5 through 8. And then looking at the 5 elementary schools by J.M. Hill selling that building and not using that building anymore, and being able to redistribute your students through the remaining 5 elementary schools. And as you can see, you still have capacity in those schools because you remember you are removing 5th grade from that elementary level. So then, to go back to what Chris was talking about, we take the must-have, should-have, could-have list and really look at what that means as a priority matrix for each of the options and which ones solve what problems or can address each of the challenges that were brought forward in those must-haves and should-haves. And this really gives you the opportunity to be able to weigh the benefits, the opportunities, the assets for each of the options, and also look at some of the challenges. You will notice under the could-haves, the providing long-term financial savings, option B and option D, because you keep all of your buildings. That means that you have to address J.M. Hill, so there will be financial implications by renovating or rebuilding J.M. Hill. The other ones do not have that same option. You would probably be able to sell the building and realign everything. So that's where you see the 2 red X's in the bottom line. So we really look at this, and moving forward, this is one of the big focuses that we're going to have with the school board in March and April, and really looking at those options and opportunities to help define which direction to move forward in the options.
All right, so wrapping up our portion of this presentation, our next steps today, and that QR code, the community survey is available. Moving on to February, the February school board meeting, there will be discussions about the survey. The school board will be reviewing the Moscow list or the priority list and see if there's any tweaks or changes to that. We'll review the options and see if there's any tweaks that we do to the options before we get to the February meeting and what comes out of our next steering committee meeting. And after we get past February, that will be the March and April. We're trying to take it down to 2 options that will then be reviewed over the next year with the engagement with the public. So at this point, important part of this is hearing from the public on these options. So if I understand, we're going to ask people to come up here. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I do have to highlight, and I did not say, all of our school board members are here and they're sitting amongst you. They wanted to listen and be a part of it, and honestly hear the murmurings as well. Sometimes when you separate them, they can't always hear the murmurings. So our school board is here. They are actively engaged, as they have been throughout this whole process. So we're going to start this. We're going to do a 3-minute timer. We ask that you please be respectful of that. And we are going to start in the order that you came in. So first come, first serve. And Chris Nielsen. And if I mess up your name, I'm incredibly sorry. So Chris Nielsen, come on up. And then after that, this next will be Michelle. So Michelle, if you want to get Michelle Briscoe, so if you want to get ready, you're going to be the next. Okay, Mr. Nielsen.
Good Good morning. My name is Chris Nielsen, Lehman Township. I have the questions that she's after. I'm curious as to what prompted this series of events, the survey and the desire to seek change. And also I was curious when I went through the previous documentation why there was an 80-20 occupancy goal without students' needs or anyone's needs being taken into account. These aren't stock shelves that we're filling here. And also, in any of the presentations that I scanned and looked at, I did not see any money mentioned in the survey. Engineering costs, the cost of each option per building or per student. And that's pretty much the short version of my notes. I had longer ones that I had written at home, but I just thought I'd throw them out. These were some of the triggers that I caught today. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to start because I have a lot to say. My name is Michelle Briscoe, and I own my home here in the borough. I live within walking distance of JM Hill, where all three of my children attend. My youngest is in first grade, and I am also the president of the PTA at JM Hill. From both a logistical and financial standpoint, closing JM Hill would place a disproportionate burden on our borough community. As you know, the majority of our students live within walking distance of our school, and many families do not have their own transportation. They rely on walking, public buses, and taxis. I ask you to seriously consider those families who would struggle or simply be unable to get to more distant school buildings. What is the parent supposed to do if their child becomes sick at school and that child needs to come home? Creating physical and financial barriers by moving schools make it less likely that families can participate in school functions and activities. That loss of access weakens community cohesion and can lead to disengagement and poorer social and educational outcomes for students. In May of 2024, a study published by the University of Houston examined the impacts of school closures on students' educational and labor market outcomes. The findings showed that students who experience a school closure see reduced test scores and increased behavioral problems. More concerning, the study found that long-term reductions in college attainment, employment, and earnings between the ages of 25 and 27. These impacts are especially pronounced in Hispanic students and students that come from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. That is important because those are our students. There are also financial consequences that extend beyond the school walls. Closing JM Hill will negatively impact property values in the borough, opening the door to reassessments and ultimately reducing district tax revenue. In addition, many families may choose alternative education options, such as private, charter, or online, which is already impacting the school's budget. Our families deserve transparency. You say you are working so hard to provide. If that's the case, I'm asking the several questions. You have stated that you do not yet know the full scope of costs of repairing JM Hill, yet why is JM Hill the only school being considered for closure? Second, with all due respect, who are RLPS architects? What credentials do they have in market research? They have shown no work on any school districts on their website. The survey that is linked is misleading. The questions are leading. It does not follow best practices. Finally, and most importantly, how does any of this benefit the students and families of our district? Why is the juice worth the squeeze? You were elected to responsibly steward our tax dollars, and I'm asking you respectfully but firmly to invest those dollars in the community where we live, where families are rooted, where children walk to school, and where our neighborhood continues. Fortresses in the middle of nowhere is not fiscal responsibility, it is cultural.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Carrie Perez. I live in Middle Smithfield. My daughter and actually my son both went to JTL. I'm coming more from a point of clarification and questioning. You know, one of the things I saw that we're supposed to take the survey, there's more information needed, and I think in fairness to the district and to all the parents, families that are represented, we need a copy of the report, the assessment report. We need financials. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm a numbers person. I want to see what the impact on the buildings are, what the impact to closing a building is, what the impact to our taxes may be. And again, need all that information before I can take any survey with any kind of educated understanding. Also need a better clarification on how redistricting impacts in all the options. So for example, what would the populations look like if one school is closed, if a charter school or a magnet school becomes apparent? What do the numbers shift to look like in all of those schools? What towns would go where? You know, if JM Hill is closed, okay, where are those kids going? If one of the options had just one intermediate school, where are those children going and what do those numbers look like in the new intermediate school? With that idea, what would be the intermediate school? Would it be Lehman? Would it be JTL? The other thing is, let's see, option D. No, I got everything. So just more information is needed, more specifics, more financials. Want to see a complete report so this way I can make an educated decision on that survey. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I don't think I'm going to take the full 3 minutes, and I think my concerns are more questions. I'd like to know when transportation is going to become a priority in these plans, because I didn't see that on the priority list on any of the must-haves, and I think that we need to strongly consider transportation. I live in Middle Smithfield Township. I have 2 boys who go to ESE. This plan, if we were to go extreme, would send my boys to Lehman or up north, basically, for middle school for 3 to 4 years. I live in Wooddale, and they go to ESE now, and we have such problems with the transportation. They get home sometimes 4:30, 5 o'clock. It's a 15-minute drive from ESE to my home. So now we're talking about driving them over an hour just for to get to school. So when is transportation gonna become a priority for you guys in your plans? Also, I just want to know, are these surveys open to the community, or are they just for the parents? Can anyone take these surveys, or are they just for parents? The surveys with the QR codes. Can anyone answer that? We're not doing a question and answer, but the survey is publicly and it's on our website. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good morning. As a parent of 4 district students, I'm deeply concerned about these school closure and consolidation proposals. There's no evidence, there's no data, there's no cost analysis showing that these options are feasible for students, families, or our community. Let's ask questions like, how will 1,500 high school students fit into South Cafeteria to eat lunch in a timely manner? What will these renovations cost? Schedule changes, added transportation, staff capacity? Has any plan been shared? Because the community hasn't seen one. A major concern is sports. Combining 2 high schools doesn't increase opportunities, it eliminates them. Under PIAA rules, roster sizes do not grow with enrollment. More students try out, fewer students make team, and even fewer ever play. These are students who rely on sports for belonging, confidence, and college opportunities. You're not merging programs, you're cutting kids. If JM Hill's closed, what's the plan for the building? Will it sit vacant for years, consuming our tax dollars like Barrett Elementary, Clearview, and Ramsey? And how is turning our entire district upside down going to save money, more money than remodeling a school that the district's 2nd highest enrollment, a school whose renovations this board has deferred for years. We need to consider how closing and consolidating schools may drive students to charter schools or homeschooling, which has both financial and community impacts. The company that provided these options, yet there's been no transparent evidence, no cost savings, no financial analysis shared with the public. There's simply no data to justify these proposals. If you have no evidence, no cost analysis, and no plan, then whose future are you saving? You're not balancing budgets, you're balancing lives. Every closure, every consolidation is a student's opportunity gone. Think carefully. You're not saving money, you're costing futures. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks for the opportunity to speak here today. I'm not leaning on research for today. I do a lot of research in my professional life. Instead, I'm here to lean on what has been called emotionality, because it involves my children and it involves your children. I have a lot of questions regarding this study. I know they're not going to be answered today, but I do hope for some answers. One is, why were we as a community not informed in June when this efficient study began with RLPS? Another is, why was there a time change suggested to our schools, and was it in preparation for this without telling us this is why we were discussing that in the first place? Finally, for me, the important ones, which might be the emotional ones. Who do we become? Are we Cavs or are we Timberwolves? I am a North mom. I am a North parent. I love North. Are we purple? Are we North Carolina blue? North was opened 25 years ago. Those students then felt misplaced. They felt labeled as outsiders. And yet they, the students, the faculty, the staff, the families, they formed a community. They built a family, and they call North home. Now you want to undo what has taken 25 years to build. I personally have been there 12. I will be there for another 6. So let's call this what it is. You are closing a high school. What you are referring to as a merge is as a disruption and a closure to us, a departure from what our students know. Some students from Pine Ridge and the Ranchlands will travel at least an hour and a half to get to the South Campus on a daily basis. I have no doubt that there are students currently attending South campuses that will travel just as far to get to North. This inherently goes against what is considered free and clear access to education. The Pennsylvania Department of Education has competencies for students' learning and growth, for people, not for buildings. These competencies focus on belonging, on community engagement, and student well-being. The proposal to merge high schools and create a universal intermediate school disrupts all of that for us, for both North and South. What happens when two distinctively different schools become one? Who continues with the programs in place? Who leads marching band? Who leads the musical? Who coaches the sports? Who teaches the AP classes? What happens to the teachers, to the staff, to the security, to the administration in each of these buildings? What happens to the records, the sports records, the academic records that our students at North have earned? We have been a school for 25 years. South Campus has been there for over 100. Our history gets erased when we become one. This merge would erase that history for us. The community that we have come to know, the teachers, the programs, the athletics, the families, they are a core part of our individual schools. The building study failed to take into consideration the human component and its impact that it would have on the people of the district. The board works for us.
Good morning. So I too mirror concerns about transportation. My daughter, currently a JTL student, I live in Smithfield Township, spends easily an hour to an hour and a half every day after school. And the after school isn't even my concern. It's the late bus in the morning that interrupts her instruction time. I've been in this building, I volunteer regularly, and regularly when I'm here in the morning, I see buses coming in 45 late. And that's a concern. And I feel like if transportation were running swimmingly, taking on any kind of a reorganization would have a massive impact to transportation. And I've been in this district for 8 years, and I've never experienced transportation running smoothly at all, let alone well. So that is a concern. I'm curious, I know that you're not taking or answering questions, but I'm curious what the financial impact was of the feasible study to begin with. Like, how much did that cost our district to complete that study? I assume that the individuals are being paid throughout the entire process. So we're talking about, what, 3 years, 4 years that these individuals are being paid to do the study, and what that cost was, and if any of that cost could have been rerouted into just maintaining the buildings. Other than that, I think that when you reorganize an entire district of schools and impact the number of students and families that we're talking about, has anyone discussed or is looking at what the first generations of students are going to suffer from because of this massive reorganization? Like, even if we're looking forward and we know that in 20 years from now, this is going to have a really positive impact on the communities and the students overall, what about the students that are there right now? I mean, my daughter will potentially be entering 9th grade when these are implemented. That's going to change her high school career massively from the career that my other 2 students had who have now graduated and moved on to college. So those are the types of concerns that I'm thinking. The students, not just the closure of JM Hill, because obviously we all have an intimate relationship with the schools that our students attend. But these students aren't even going to know what to expect. And the leaders within the schools aren't going to be able to tell them what to expect because it's going to be new territory for everybody. So what can we do to prepare the students for that? And has that even been considered at this point in time? That's all I have. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Patrick Norman, and resident Smithfield Township. I don't have time to write fancy speeches or anything. I work continuously. But I have been following this issue a little bit. And one thing the school board and everybody needs to look at is maybe look at your townships on what kind of population growth that they're expecting before you think about closing schools. Smithfield Township is proposing right now, or in the discussion of building 3 to 4 story apartment buildings along Independence Road. Okay? So maybe before we think about that, go to Middle Smithfield, Lehman Township, Price Township, and East Stroudsburg Borough to see what their plans are. You close these schools, you move everybody around, and now we have an economic explosion, more population growth. Now what are you going to do? Okay? I am an alumni of JM Hill School. I was the first 7th grade school class to come through this school and graduated from South in 1998. So I've seen growth of this school district, and I've seen it go up and down. With the world that we're living in today, we never know what's going to happen with our population here. I understand JM Hill School's been there since 1920. It does need work. It needed work back in the 80s when I was in there. Back with the, now you think about your transportation, before South was even, or North was even built, excuse me, I have friends that lived up towards the Hamlet, up in Canadensis, and friends that lived up in Pine Ridge and Section 5 of Poker Mountain Lake Estates. They were getting on the school bus at after 5 in the morning to get to school. So that was one of the ideas of building the North Campus, was to cut down on transportation times. Our transportation is taxed out now because they can't get drivers because of the low wages. Trust me, I am not a fan of higher taxes. We're all taxed to death. But if you paid your drivers a little bit better, maybe you'd have better drivers and more drivers. I didn't think I'd take this much time, but I guess I did. But anyways, I'm a blue-collared worker. I'm for the performing arts. I'm for the vocation. Maybe think about opening, maybe build our own vocational school. Start something new. MCTI, they're overwhelmed also with the amount of enrollment there. Why don't we think about something like that? Have your performing arts and the blue collar school, just for us here in East Stroudsburg. My time is up, thank you.
So Lisa and then Ruben Torres.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Massa. I'm a registered nurse in the community. Our whole household besides me either works or goes to the district. We have bigger fish to fry. When you're taking kids from the north and out in these far districts, with our bus system the way it is, it's not going to work. And let's just say the rumors are out there and First Student is not going to fix those problems. I have a child who graduated the district under Mr. Cotrillo in 2011, I believe he was still there. Okay? The school district was way different. You had more caring teachers because they weren't in the situations they are. My daughter now is teaching your students that are behind out of a closet. So we need to look at how things are done, not moving these kids from where that they are. I have another one who's in dual enrollment. Her plan was to stay here in the district and teach. This is all coming up. She's planning now to leave. My youngest, this I thought would affect him. Will not, it'll affect the following year. But he's in sports. Actually, both of my younger two are in sports in the district. It will greatly impact these children. The way they've been, now our kids have to leave school at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to go to a game that's way out here. It impacts their education. They're in practice after school. These kids that are coming from the North District, they're gonna be in South. Right now, my son gets home 7 o'clock every night. What's gonna happen, and we pick him up 15 minutes from home. What's gonna happen to that North kid who really, really is great at sports, and he really wants to be there every day for practice? He's not gonna get home till 9 o'clock at night. You know, we're thinking about, you know, maybe logistics here, and what you're thinking, I don't understand. But from a parent perspective, from someone who has family that all works in the school district, this is not about us. I'm not sure what this is about. But I think a lot more thought needs to go into it. I think a lot more planning. And just by looking at your slides, there really is only one option that we feel you're going to choose. And I pray that we're wrong, but there's one section that's all green. And that is the worst possible option for this school district. It's going to hurt our students, it's going to hurt our teachers, and it's going to cause hardship for our parents. And that whole school bus thing that came about, that is going to ruin our, you know, they say it's not right, you can't have older kids getting younger kids off the bus, but we can't go to one-parent households anymore. This is two-parent households. Sometimes you have adult children living at home to help with bills. My school taxes are through the roof. I pay what some of my friends pay in New Jersey. Our minimum wage is $7-something an hour. People are not surviving here. People are losing their home to school taxes.
My name is Ruben Torres. I live in Middle Smithfield. I have children in the district. First off, I love this school district. It's been very good to my children. The teachers have been accommodating. The support staff has been great when I've had issues. You can't take emotion out of this. We are not numbers on a spreadsheet. It's important that our children grow here, have friends and opportunities. Sports are important, after-school activities are important. I don't want to see overcrowded classrooms. I don't want to see longer transportation times. I don't want to see our educators hurt, laid off, our support staff laid off, our bus drivers laid off. Quality of life is important, and it's been great, and it's something that is not translated on a spreadsheet. Safety is important. The security of this school district, how it's handled, has been awesome. Overcrowding in schools, I don't know. Tensions will rise. Our children need to grow and flourish, and I'm opposed to closing any school in the district. I'm for renovating the current school that needs renovations, and I'm open to new programs and ideas for our children and students, but not having a child on a bus for over an hour to get to school. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Simpson, and I live in the East Stroudsburg Borough. I relocated to the area in 1998, 28 years ago, from Delaware County, Pennsylvania, to accept a new teaching position. I was teaching in Delaware County, which has 14 school districts, although it is the third smallest county in Pennsylvania. But I decided to move to the area to be better able to appreciate all that this area has to offer, and to be able to take advantage of the incredible opportunities that a new teacher had at that time, which I most certainly have. I'm not a teacher in the East Stroudsburg Area School District, but I chose to purchase a home and live in the East Stroudsburg Borough, and then to start and raise my family. I still live in the same house today and wouldn't change it for the world, because one of the major advantages is the location of the schools. I have 4 children, ages 22, 15, 8, and 7. I am very invested in the East Stroudsburg Area School District. They all attended or are attending J.M. Hill. J.M. Hill is not just a very historical building within the district that should be preserved. There are many other reasons that this structure is a rarity in today's world. When you enter this building, the feelings of family, home, connectedness immediately consume you, and this has always been evident. You can see it, not only in the mindset of the staff and students, but in their eyes and in their hearts. In 2012, the possibility of closing J.M. Hill became a concern, and thankfully it didn't happen. The community was heard, the emotions were heard. If the closing of this school occurs in any of the proposed scenarios, relocating everyone in this particular building will upend, dismantle, and destroy the J.M. Hill family that has been established for decades now. Are you really willing to do that? And then let's look at this further, the domino effect that you are revealing. It seems that there is a lack of concern for this inevitable disruption in everyone's education and lives. It will affect and involve all students and their families in every single building. You will create an upheaval in so many lives, in everyone's life, not just the borough, and all of our stakeholders, everyone within the boundary lines of the entire East Stroudsburg Area School District. Are you willing to do that? And are you willing to be held accountable for how all of this will play out? The future with any of your proposed plans and our children have been placed in your hands. That is the driving force. Don't lose sight of this. The closing of J.M. Hill should be taken off the table, and it should never be put back on until there is a need for change for all the right
Good morning. So a lot of my comments have already been addressed, but we'll address them again. In my community, most of us, I think all of us, came from New York to avoid overcrowding. We came here to make sure, like, we've come from that era of overcrowding schools and long transportations and stuff. And sometimes when you're looking for a home, the first thing you look for as a parent is what school district. How is it? You look at the teachers. You look at how many students are there. So most of us chose our homes because we were happy with this school district and how it was structured. So after looking at other locations, we chose ESE School District. We chose the East Stroudsburg Area School District on purpose. In New York, we paid tuitions, we paid for private schools, we paid for Catholic schools. And we came here because we didn't want to do that anymore. I live in Price Township, up on Schoolhouse. It takes me 7 minutes to get down the hill to Anamonik, if I'm pronouncing that right. It takes me 7 minutes from there to get to Weiss. And then it takes me 2 minutes to get to JTL, to a student who has an IHP. She has medical issues. I have another student in ESE, and it takes me 7 minutes to get from there to ESE. Both of my students are in music and art programs and into arts, and they're in fusion programs, which begin at 5 and 5:30. Now to have to tell them that they can't go because if they get redistricted, then the timing is an issue. If this whole process came from a financial view, can we look at the amount of money it took to restructure, redirect, retransportation, programs, students' needs, and all of that, versus the amount of money it takes to rebuild and restructure JM Hill? It has to make fiscal sense if the whole issue is because of fiscal needs. If you redistrict, would you be taking our young adults and uprooting them from their college tracks, such as 10th, 11th, and 12th grades, those that are on scholarship tracks, affecting them, sports, music, et cetera? Are you concerned with losing some students due to transportation to and from the schools in South and would have to travel to North? We addressed all of that, right? The builders in the community, have you spoken to them and looked at their proposals to see, are they building new communities and how that would look as beneficial to other schools in terms of capacity? Have you also surveyed those builders to see what projects are coming up and to put into your future trends? My development already pays taxes from $10,000 to $20,000 a year already in Price Township. Would any of these options from B to E increase our taxes already? For
Good morning. I have 3 sons who attend school in the East Stroudsburg School District. When families are looking to buy homes, if they have children or are planning to have children, they consider school proximity when making these decisions. I have to say, I have worked for or volunteered with organizations that have undertaken assessment studies of this type in the past, and I've never seen anything this vague or incomplete that is supposed to be used as a basis for making any type of decision, even if it is just to narrow down some ideas. If you only receive 170 responses out of the entire school district community, that is a signal to reach out again to get more responses. It is not a signal to start preparing spreadsheets. My children did not go to JM Hill. I did not grow up in this area. I have no personal experience with JM Hill. However, after listening to parents speak at the December board meeting, because I watched the replay, it is very clear that closing that school would have an extremely negative impact on the people of that community. That school is vital to that community. People spoke about needing to go there for the lunch resources over the summer. We are already considered an economically disadvantaged school district, and it seems that that school community is one of the most economically disadvantaged communities around a school. Take that into account. These parents need to be able to walk their children to school. That needs to be taken into account. Where is the impact study on how these changes will affect those families? Where's the impact study on how much the time spent on buses will affect children? I had a student attending Smithfield Elementary School last year who was on the bus for 45 minutes. He and the other children who came off of that bus came off sweating, exhausted, and I would say got sick more because of the air quality on the school bus. That was going from, you know,
Hi, good morning, everyone. Danica Hartenfels. I own a home in Smithfield Township. I've had a daughter go through East Stroudsburg School District. My son is in the district. First of all, I would like to thank the school board. This is a tireless job. You do this, and I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for that. Let's just be kind and respectful. They're doing this, okay? My dad, who died last year, went to JM Hill. I remember as a kid, my grandparents had a house on East Broad Street. I remember playing at the playground. I went to Delaware Valley High School, and I used to have to ride on a bus an hour and 15 minutes from Dingman's Ferry to Matamoros, my whole life. So that really, the transportation piece is really key. It's part of the equation here. I really want you guys to consider that. I'm a small business owner. I have to be fiscally accountable, or I'm not in business, all right? There's no numbers here. I don't see any numbers. So how do we make decisions even going down to 2 without numbers? That is really important to me. So I just want to say that. I'm a problem solver. Why haven't we made JM Hill a historical building? Why haven't we gone for grants to get the renovations done so our children can stay in their school? Patrick hit the nail on the head, so amen to you. We have economic development happening within our community. Did anybody bring up the Smithfield Gateway project? They're building condominiums that's going to bring families. We know what's going on in New York. I don't even have to go there. People will come again. We've seen the rise and fall. I've lived here all my life. So I urgently thank you for allowing me to speak. Oh, look, I'm even under time. And I have to get to work, but I just want to thank you for the time and wishing you all a wonderful 2026. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Greg Kessel. I'm a graduate of East Stroudsburg, a borough resident, taxpayer, and most importantly for this subject, a parent to 2 children who attend James Hill and walk there every day. I appreciate the school board, Dr. Vitale, for allowing us to be part of this, give our input, but I find it very difficult to give any input with the very limited information we've been given in this presentation. We've basically been shown enrollment numbers and capacity. You know, one of the most important must-haves is fiscal responsibility, and again, there's no numbers, no projections of cost, any of that information. The matrix looks great. You've got columns full of check marks. But how are those check marks and those goals being met? We have no explanation of that. We also don't know why the other options can't meet those goals. We've heard for, I think, the first time today, a kind of a plan for James Hill if it does close, and that being the sale of that property. We've seen examples in Stroudsburg after their schools have been closed, which sat empty or unused for 10 years or so. You know, I think as they've had, there will be difficulty selling that property. You know, it's a non-conforming use in a residential district. So that's another point that I think should be considered in the closure of James Hill. The other thing, which I'm glad to see some faces of teachers and employees here, because as many of those teachers supported you school board members for your election, and you guys did great getting them a nice big contract, they're now coming to us when we're picking up our students from school or seeing them in public and begging us to fight for them to keep these schools open because they're in fear of losing their jobs. Or, you know, or being relocated and upending, and, you know, maybe some of them now have even longer commutes if they get moved to different schools. So I'd like to, you know, see more information, as I'm sure many of you would also like to see. It's been mentioned many times. I don't see how we can narrow this down to 2 with just numbers of enrollment and capacity. So I'd like to see more information. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Deb Kessel. Greg is my son, and when he and my daughter were young, I did live in the borough, and they attended J.M. Hill. I currently live in Smithfield Township, but my daughter is a teacher within the district. One of the things I read in the information is that J.M. Hill is somehow not comparable to the other elementary schools. And I guess my question is, what exactly is that meaning? Their playground isn't as new as another school, or their cafeteria isn't as big. What exactly is meant by that? So that's something that I would, at some point, like to hear. Also, when you talk about selling J.M. Hill, I have the same feelings that everyone else has. We've seen other towns close elementary schools and those buildings sit vacant. And I would really not like to see that in the middle of town, have a vacant building there. Busing and transportation, that's another concern I have, as many of you have. Closing schools, what does it do to the staff? I mean, the J.M. Hill, for those of you who aren't there, my grandchildren are there now, my children went there. It's not just a school, it is a family. They are so closely knit, the staff, the faculty. There's a woman, and I feel bad because I don't know her name, but she knows the name of every person who comes to pick up their child at that school. After the first day, she knew when my grandkids come up, she says, when she sees me there, oh, Grayson and Casey, Grayson and Casey, and here they come. And then she goes on to the person behind me. That school is a family. It's not just a building. Please don't close it. I am a retired educator myself, and I lived through 2 school renovations at the school where I worked. And it's possible, it's doable. We don't have to close a school. We can renovate that school. Thank you.
My dad's up next. He says he's glad I'm first. My name's Anna Gress. I went to J.M. Hill Elementary School, and I'm a graduate of East Stroudsburg South. In my professional job, I lead employee engagement, and I really think we should applaud everyone in the room because we were asked not to be emotional, and I don't know what should not make us emotional about a decision for our children, for walking to schools, for daily routines, and for community stability. And this is bringing our community together, and for everyone in this room, I'm emotional right now too because I was one of those walkers at J.M. Hill. When we were sitting here, many of us attended or were online for that December meeting, and we were looking at materials that were revised, and it was not disclosed. And that change feels so untransparent. It should undermine all of our confidence in this process. I can't imagine any circumstance where not sharing that is okay. The language we are also using as we discuss this is so leading. I don't know what oldest and most challenged means. In the scoring slide for J.M. Hill, the one with a bunch of boxes that were filled in, J.M. Hill ranks lower by hundredths of a point, largely because it hasn't been renovated since 1994. I can't go a month without fixing something in my house that was built in 1970. 30 years of deferred investment is not evidence that a school should be closed. In fact, we should award everyone who works there for keeping it running without a renovation. And if attendance, engagement, and equity are priorities, we need more justification. J.M. Hill's at 94% utilization and capacity, and it's the only school that is being modeled for closure. Also, I'm not sure if I should even use the word modeling because as we've all pointed out, there's no dollar figures on that slide. And research shows that's supported by the US Department of Education that when we increase the commute for children, elementary school children, absenteeism goes up and reduced engagement. Yet this recommendation is not analyzing commute length or attendance, which is going to drop, which is going to impact grades. It all adds up. And equity is constantly cited as a priority, yet who is bearing the burden of this closure is never evaluated. Thank you.
I probably should have went first. But the last time in December when I spoke, it's online, so I'm not going to reiterate what I said there. But the fact is, the district does need to redistrict, and that's the sole crust of this. The North does not have the kids to support up there. As been said, J.M. Hill is a great school. I was on the board for 12 years. J.M. Hill was always neglected. First, we were renovating Smithfield, Middle Smithfield, building ESE, and so on. And J.M. Hill was always put off. When I left the board 5 years ago, the board left the district with $60 million in fund balance and a plan to renovate the schools. In the last couple of years, the next couple of years, we're literally dumping in, I believe it's $10 million into the other 5 elementary schools. And most of those were built 30 years or less. And we're replacing things that J.M. Hill has not been replaced in almost 100 years. And as I said last time, the old bathrooms in J.M. Hill are still there. You know, and again, the staff does a heck of a job keeping it together. The firm, the last time a consultant was used was, I wasn't on the board yet, but J.S. Bonnell was going to be part of the high school renovation project. The project was $47 million, if people remember. A consultant came in and said, let's build a new high school at Mosier Farm. They found out the cost was at that time was about $120 million. Then they came in, redid the whole plan. The district building plan went from 47 to $100 million high school south. With that, they built the high school in a parking lot. They built the parking lot on the ball fields, and then they put the ball fields in the middle of the creek, which lost about 3 acres of land, is down in Jersey now. So again, JM Hill has been neglected. It can be renovated. It should be renovated. It's a community school. It's been said the police monitor it, the streets, Central City's water, sewer, and so on. So again, a 100-year building has more bones and backbones than the other. And I thank the board for looking into this. I know some of them, the options have to be looked at, but some of these options shouldn't even be options. And we all know that, but thank you. And keep attending the meetings, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's very tempting to just say ditto and sit back down because I'm very proud of everyone who spoke so far and agree with everything that's been said. I'm also really proud of my neighborhood that's well represented back there. So good morning, my name is Michelle Cranes. I have lived in this county and this town most of my life, following in the footsteps of several generations of my family, including walking the storied halls of JM Hill. When my husband and I moved back to the area, we were intentional about where we bought our house so that our kids could attend JM Hill, JTL, and South High School. We can see JM Hill from our yard. We feel like it's a part of our actual neighborhood, even though we're down the street on East Broad Street, tucked away off Exchange. We frequent the playground all year round. My kids are gaining independence and responsibility, walking home from after-school programming. They're comfortable there, they're safe there. You mentioned wanting to hear from the community, but we've already emphatically stated that we want JM Hill to remain open. This was years ago, and yet here we are again, discussing the same thing. JM Hill is thriving. You don't shut down a thriving place. You invest in it and you maintain it. Last meeting, it was mentioned that our school population is declining. Why would new families move here knowing how far apart the schools are if we rearrange the campuses so drastically? I don't want to navigate between buildings that are so far apart when my kids are attending different schools. Their home games would feel like away games up north. There's no connection for us when we live down here, and I'm sure North families feel the same way. I don't want my kids to travel an hour on a bus to get to school and back home again. I won't. I would choose another educational option. Yep. Since reading that report, I have felt so much anger and stress. The rollout of this information was egregious. How did you not anticipate the emotional impact when 3 out of 5 options included closing JM Hill? These ideas should have been vetted and reworked before entering the public sphere. I felt like the feasibility survey kept trying to push me to answer questions a certain way. It felt leading and odd. I had no idea it would lead to this discussion. And I apologize if I missed the finer details that explained all of that, but I don't think I'm alone in being confused by this entire process. I want to focus on better transportation, better field trips, and educational opportunities, better playgrounds, not magnet schools, not academies, just excellence from kindergarten and up. My kids have gone to the planetarium several times, and once or twice is enough, I will tell you that. You are in a position of power and trusted with the well-being of all students and their families in this district. Do not let the enormity
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Iracane. I'm an East Stroudsburg Borough resident, and depending on where your children in their academic career, they may have had my late husband as their Little League coach, who was very active in that. You may know my oldest son, Vincent, a senior, and I have a kindergartner at JM Hill Elementary. One thing I want to bring up is I did mention at the board meeting was I'd like to see what the plans are for JM Hill, and what came up in terms of closing was sell. I'm assuming that's just for the money, and since we're talking about the money, I'm going to echo what everyone else said here, and that is, where are the dollar signs for any of this? I have not seen it, and everyone here in this room will be paying for it, just like we pay your salary. So we would like to know how much it's going to cost. Because when I bought my car in 2019, I went to the dealership and I said, this is what I want my monthly payment to be. And they tried to offer me other stuff, and I said no. Now I have the pleasure of working my senior through college. We have a defined budget. We can't go over, we can go under. Where is the budget? Where are the numbers? Then there is obviously the practicality and the importance of JM Hill to the community, such as the lunch programs, its walkability. It offers a quick start program for incoming kindergartners so they can become acclimated to the school and feel confident when they walk in on that first day. There is transportation concerns. My son gets bused even though we live on East Broad Street because where we are has no sidewalks. He doesn't get home till 4:15 because the bus that picks him up in the afternoon is a bus that is completing a run for either the high school south or JTL. What happens when now some of these kids are in south are going to north and vice versa? There are plenty within the North District who already seem to have quite a bit of a ride. Do we really want to increase this? We need more bus drivers. How are we going to pay for that? Where are the dollars? Nobody makes a big decision like this, maybe except on HGTV, just throwing caution to the wind and hoping that they can do it when they sell pencils for, 5 hours a week and they have a $20 million budget. I'm going to assume that is not our hard taxpayers working very hard trying to just create a life for their families. Where are the numbers? I don't see how you can come up and narrow it down to 2 options in 2.5 months without seeing any numbers, and expect us, the voters, to support you going forward. Thank you.
Good morning. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning. My name is Jane Gagliardo. I am a counselor for domestic violence and sexual assault victims, as well as an East Stroudsburg Borough Council member. However, I'm not here today for that. I'm here today because I had the opportunity of sending my children to JM Hill School. They are now grown adults. Some of you on this board were their teachers, and Ms. Vitale is an extended part of the family. However, I don't agree with closing this school. I do want to do a reminder to you when I spoke to you in December of the programs that are facilitated from JM Hill School, the YMCA before and after school program, the summer program for breakfast and lunch. Also, this survey, and I do appreciate it being on your website. However, in my ward, Ward 5, we are predominantly senior citizens. Some of the people in my ward don't even have a computer. I would urge this board to please be sure that every resident who pays taxes to please make sure everyone gets a survey, either through mail. You can go ahead and put it on a computer, but if you don't have one, it's useless. Also, I do have to question, I was a part and spoke the last time you wanted to close JM Hill School, and I have to question what investment have you made between then and now for JM Hill School maintenance? You must maintain the schools. And if you don't do that, you're going to be revisiting this problem again in another 10 years. So please, I urge you to give us the numbers that you have already spent to maintain JM Hill School. I'm sure they are not adequate because once again, we're facing the problem of JM Hill's closing. This is also a family-style community, correct? JM Hill is not just a brick building. It is a heart of a community. It is predominantly fitting for a community and I'm sorry, I lost my spot. I'm old, so you got to bear with me. It's a family-style community, so when you're considering a decision, don't just consider what you see on paper. We do, as a community, need to see numbers, and that has not been forwarded to us in any shape or form. And when you do consider to make this decision, remember the people that voted for you on this board.
Hi, my name's Chris Abel. I went to school my whole life. I'm a Jamin Hill Jaguar, East Strasburg Cavalier. The one question I have is enrollment is going down. I need more information. That makes me left to think that because of transportation. I mean, I went here in '89, so you can't really walk to schools with more traffic and violence, and then also it needs to be easier to enroll your kids. The fact is, don't close Jamin Hill, because it would make more kids, and it make the classrooms bigger. And making the classrooms bigger means kids would have harder times to learn. So that's it.
Hello. Guys, my best friend told me about this meeting. I'm glad I attended. My son, my youngest, he went to J.M. Hill. He graduated. I'm a graduate of Flushing High School, the oldest school in New York. We had Gogwells. We took care of our schools. I am an advocate for any child. Emotionally, it's not good to move them around like that. They tend to they tend to have outbursts. What's the word? They tend to lash out. They tend to become a different child. I think children are very, like I said, I'm an advocate for a child. It's a very sensitive subject for me. I mean, it tells you how much you care about people when you don't even care about the children. Life is tough enough. Why are you doing this to the children? I mean, I find it hard to have to explain to my child, oh, they're gonna close J.M. Hill, or he has to be displaced because, oh, but the courthouse is beautiful. The courthouse don't have any handles. You ever been to the courthouse bathroom? Who paid for that? Read it, okay? I don't think it's a good idea because when I got here, there was nothing but trees, rocks, and deer. Now, if you telling me there ain't gonna be more kids coming, they building a lot. And that means kids are coming. To close down the school, that would definitely not be a good look. It would not be smart. Okay, it's not smart. You don't close down churches, you don't do to schools. You don't do that. All right? I think we should protect our children. Oh, I know we should protect our children. They are our future. You don't do this to children. I mean, the transportation, my heart goes out to you guys. I mean, I don't have an issue with it, but my heart goes out to your children the most. You add into the community, and then you're taking away. You're taking away people's their legacies, their history. Why you maintain the school? Don't sell it. Why? What you gonna do with that? What you gonna do with it? Don't sell it. maintenance it, create jobs. I'm fighting for the school, and I'm going to keep on fighting for the school because this community is changing so much. I'm learning to vote, and we all, as a community, need to vote more because I don't trust people in office. I don't trust the people running this country. You don't care about us. It's evident. It's evident. At least we can do is protect our children. Keep J.M. Hill open, okay? Just do it for the kids, all right? Us adults, we're lost. That's just it. We're lost, and let's prepare for a better future. Okay, let's not mess up our kids. There'll be emotional consequences to this, right? I don't support this, and I'm gonna show up, and I'm gonna tell everybody about it. Cause tell you the truth, all these seats should have been filled. I should have known this. Someone should have told me this. You have to, okay. Go ahead, say what you have to say. Okay, we're a little scared of public speaking. My name is Sierra Gonzalez. I'm in East Stroudsburg area. I have my big one who goes to JTL. She's former student of J.M. Hill. I have one in kindergarten now who is in J.M. Hill. They've connected with so much of the staff, the kids, and everything, and they have so many relationships within that school, and you're just taking that away from them completely. And then the parents as well, we all have connections and relationships within that school. In this school we're starting, and it's just not into question how you guys are taking any of the kids' emotions into consideration as far as closing that school. I feel like you guys should be listening to the students, the teachers, and the parents, because it doesn't affect your guys' pockets as much as ours. And we should have more say, and the kids should have more say as far as any decision that you guys are moving forward with. That's what I have to say. She doesn't want to take an hour drive on a bus to go to a school that she doesn't even know and spend majority of her day on a bus all day. So, good? That's all. You have anything to say?
I feel like that you should ask the kids what they want to do instead of just making decisions of just by yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Feng Feng. I'm in Bushkill in Pine Ridge. I'm a resident there. Thank you very much for explaining how our side to the kids that is traveling every morning. We got to wake up extra early, especially my oldest one is 12 years old. And it's hard for the kids waking up early to meet their, how you say that, their time, right? So all I have to say right here is, sorry, I'm a little shaky, first time. If the school merged, how many students will be in per class? And we know if there's gonna be a large class, how can that teacher can handle such a large class, especially for their attentions? So yes, we know that they can't. The other one is, if you can't get the transportation together and organize, how can you get school merge or school removal to organized? That's very important. And did you consider longer transportation can affect the student learning after long rides on bus? How long does it take them to adjust when they go into class? As you can see that some students, and I'm sorry, this is my first time saying about I'm sorry if I said it wrong, J.M. Hills. When I heard about this, I think that's actually wrong for closing to sell the school. It actually got me really upset. and I know for most of you guys, I agree with that. I do not approve that they should be shut down. I do approve that they should be upgraded, renovated. If it needs to be closed to make it bigger, by all means, it's fine, as long it stays open. I'm happy with that. Also, we know that the educational, right, school educational boards, and like, for example, Bushkill Elementary, all my kids goes there. I got 3 of them. One's is 5, 6, and of course 12. Especially, I mean, the 12 goes to Lehman. Bushkill Elementary playground has never been updated for a very long time. And that's why I don't approve about this selling things. And like they said, where's the money coming from? I don't see no price lines. And please, thank you for the person who came from, talked about or Jade me up, and I see how you would really like heartbreak. Very proud, especially the lady who said about where she came from Bush, I mean for North. I don't think North should be shut down either. So I think you guys have a different options. I know you guys have better plans, and if it's not, as us as a community, we can actually come together and make a plan for you. And that's basically it. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Katie Paulsino. I'm a taxpayer, a voter, and I'm also a kindergarten teacher at Middle Smithfield Elementary. I live in the borough. I have 2 young boys. I have a 10-month-old and I have a 2-year-old toddler who is supposed to be going to JM Hill Elementary School. I purchased my house in the district that I worked in because I wanted my kids to be in the same schools that I work in, and I want to be that community member. My boys, they're young. My husband also works for Mountain Valley. We're very involved in our community. We love our community. I picked my house because I wanted my boys to go to the school. I wanted them to be close to JTL. I wanted them to be close to High School South, and I wanted them to be close to where my husband works. He needs to go to the hospital. So those are my reasons why we picked the house that we selected. The other thing that is, I do want to say, as a taxpayer, I should have gotten this in my mailbox. I really was sad that that didn't happen. Another thing is, my job as a kindergarten teacher is to speak for the kids who have the tiny voices and make sure that they have access to a microphone. My family's eyes to make sure that I translate documents for my students' parents who do not speak English as a first language. I have 2 young boys, and I take the time to do that for my kiddos. I wish that we did that for our families so that they had access to the survey, all of our families. The other thing that I want to say is the transportation thing is a huge issue for me. My students right now, they come in so late on 2-hour delay days. It's hard for them to get down the mountain to get to Middle Smithfield Elementary. And I have a lot of kids who miss days when we have bad weather. I have a lot of students who are absent and kids who need to come to school. They really need to be to school, and adding this hour and long bus rides is really impactful for my kiddos. My other big concern is that the long bus ride for my own children, they don't have to drive. My kids shouldn't have to be on a bus for an hour plus without another kid being picked up. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to our other kids. I think equity is really important in our district. I think we are united no matter what, if we have a North or South high school. I just think the way that our district is mapped, it's so huge. There's a lot of problems we do have to fix. I think that these solutions are not the best solutions for our district. And this is me coming from a place of really caring about the North kiddos, because they're my kiddos too. Chloe, you were my student in cyber before I was married. I'm so proud of you for using your voice. Okay, Chloe, you're amazing. And I just want to say I really love this district, and I'm coming from a real place of these are solutions, but are they the best solutions for our families? Are they speaking for our kids? As a teacher, I don't want to get in trouble for talking, but I love my kids, and I love my students, and I want my own kids and my students to have the best school experience, to be cared for. We have amazing teachers. They're not going to stay. I have staff we have staff who live in Scranton. We have staff who live in Wall and Powell-Pack. Asking them to come down here, I can't imagine. We have really great teachers. We have really great families. They all deserve. We need to come up with solutions that are best for everybody. And I'm not saying that we don't have
Good afternoon, everybody. It's not really much to say that everybody else didn't already say. I just feel like this problem has just been kicked down the hill consistently. It was brought up that 2017 that this was proposed, and here we are in 2016. So what is it, 2035, we're gonna be here again? It makes no sense. Taxes are already high in our area. It's probably just gonna continue to keep going up. I feel like it's just a misallocation of funds. They're saying that JM Hill has not been renovated at all for the past century, it seems like. I don't know. But like I said, I feel like the people who are in these seats making these decisions, they're not thinking productly in my eyes. I feel like we have to go back to the drawing board and see what we can do, Mic check, mic check. All right, so they tried to cut me off, but here I am, now I'm playing. But yeah, so anyways, like, it's a misallocation of funds. I feel like if we did a better job of seeing where the funding is going, may it be transportation, teachers' salaries, I feel like we will have a better off foot as far as not coming back to being here again. It makes no sense. My family has moved to the area since 2007. I was one of the kids who went to South. I went through the renovations. A lot of the renovations were kind of pointless. A lot of the classrooms were not necessarily empty, but they weren't full. Classroom sizes were probably 25 to 30 kids. The teachers could not handle that many kids. So if we're gonna move kids from one end of the district to the other end of the district and compound them all together, what's gonna happen then? What else? Well,
Okay. I just want to say, like, my daughter goes to ESD, and right now there's a lot of behavior problems in her classroom. She's already having problems trying to learn. She's a top learner in her classroom, and I'm just really concerned about classroom sizes increasing when there's not even a plan to address the behavior concerns that we all have right now. So if that can also be taken into consideration as these plans are being made, that would definitely be helpful for us as parents.
I think that's pretty much everything. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but after hearing everything that's going on, I just think that this is completely absurd. I'm from Smithfield Township. My kids come to JTL. I have a 12-year-old and an 11-year-old who have crazy anxiety about what this could potentially mean for the relationships that they built. I left a domestic violence situation from New York and came here. The community accepted my children, made them feel safe, made them feel loved. They built these friendships that they are relying on to survive. I mean, we all know school sucks. Let's be honest, right? When we were kids, it was rough, and it's hard to be a kid. But then you throw complete chaos into their worlds and still expect them to be testing high and everything as in regards to the PSSAs and all of that. You guys want to close a school for no reason. It seems as though there was already a decision made in a back room, and you guys technically have to hear us out, but it feels very much like there was already a decision made. I have not heard one person speak here today in favor of closing that school. You guys funded a survey for them to come and evaluate on like what it would cost and everything else, but you took away that funding from other things that they could have used for our school, like transportation and teachers and safety. How many gun reports have we had in our district? We're not getting notified about that, but you guys are so worried about closing a school that doesn't need to be closed. It's completely absurd to me. You guys are not listening to the community or the kids. And again, I feel like this has been a backroom deal, and you guys aren't releasing financial information. You're not giving us anything, but you're like, make a decision, tell us now. You're not answering any questions as far as like who gets to vote on this? Do we get to see who voted this? Is it just public? Because is it stacked against the community? Nobody in this community wants JM Hill closed or the transportation. My kids have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day to get on the bus. The school is 12 minutes from my house. That's ridiculous. My daughter's 12, my son's 11, and bedtime's at 7:30 because they can't stay up like normal teenagers because, oh my God, I have to get up before anybody else on a work day. That's ridiculous. It's absurd to me. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hello guys, I attend JTL. My name is Madison Torres, and I find that closing JM Hill is absurd. I don't think we should close it. As an active community member in my own community, I am in National Junior Honor Society and Good Morning JTL, and I'm active in the community. I find that the bus hours, like how long it takes to go on the bus, as a student myself, it's long. And combining it to have even longer bus rides is stupid. And the class sizes, already as is, I don't think they should grow bigger. It's already hard to learn with this many kids, and I don't think it should get bigger. I just find the whole situation, I think everybody in here thinks that we don't close JM Hill. It's a big community, and everybody that says, I personally never went there, but everybody that says they have, that they're all like a family. And I think getting rid of that family would affect the community negatively. Like, I just find that I just don't think it's good for everybody. And that's all I wanted to say, truly, after hearing everybody. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Hello, I just wanted to add a couple of things. I live in Salt Creek. I moved out here from Whitehall, the Lehigh Valley, for the schools. I chose Lehman because I really appreciate the way this community works. So one thing I wanted to mention is this change would take my kids out of Lehman back down to South, which I intentionally chose my house to avoid that. I do like South. I do work in the districts. I ride the bus myself with a student with disabilities for over an hour and a half every day in the morning and an hour and a half every day in the evening. There are multiple kids with special needs on that bus, and we have an hour and a half. Some of them are a little longer than me, but I'm usually third pickup and last drop off. It's a long ride for these kids. We have one that screams the entire ride. He cannot tolerate these long rides, and it shouldn't be longer. I'd like more staff in this bus district so that we can accommodate this. And second, I didn't get any notification of this. I want to thank Lauren Langdon, who put this on Nextdoor. So join Nextdoor, because that's how I found out this was even going on, and I found that shocking that I didn't know. So how can we better get connected as a community so that we're aware before it gets to a spiraling point where our kids are going to be affected? Right. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention. When you're sending out these notifications to the property owners, please send it to everybody, because it did represent that there's a quarter of a student per household. I have 4 in my house, so there's many houses that do not have kids who this will also affect. As far as taxes go, as far as transportation goes, this is a big decision, and I would like to keep JM Hill open or rebuild it, whichever the case may be, but we need more transportation staff. We need the teachers to be appreciated for the classroom sizes that they do have, and for the kids to have more instruction time and less interruptions, and as you said, less behavioral disturbances. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Sorry to make you stay one last minute, but I spoke at the board meeting in December. Glad to see some of the feedback that I asked for at that meeting was presented at today's presentation, the waterfall that I was looking for. Would like it a little bit more granular by grade as well, not just school. That will help address some of the concerns that folks have with class sizes, I believe. And just listening to everyone today and last night, early this morning, going over the 77-page document of the school district's budget for 2024 and 25, I just want to call out some things that I noticed. So the school district is not broke. It is under real financial pressure, though. The district is running operational deficits, losing federal COVID funding, and planning to use reserves to balance future budgets. If you look at the budget, they have a lot of funds, bond funds. Think of those as credit cards. There's a lot on there. They are paying credit cards to pay credit cards to pay credit cards, it looks like, from the budget. And that's why there's all this talk about future budget balancing and why we're probably talking about all of this right now. So the feasibility study identified district-wide excess building capacity, and it did not show low enrollment at JM Hill as a structural issue. JM Hill is relatively full compared to other elementary schools. The closure discussion appears driven by avoiding future capital investment at JM Hill, not by enrollment collapse or immediate fiscal emergency. The case for closing JM Hill has not yet been proven without clear data on renovation costs, savings, and impacts. That's all I have.
I just want to say good morning. I was not planning on speaking today, but I do want to start off by saying the last time I was in this auditorium, I was a 6th grader, and I cried my eyes out because I was leaving this school with all my friends because I had to go north. I have nothing against North. I am a proud Timberwolf graduate, 2006. I was a student athlete. I will tell you, my bus came at 6:05 in the morning because I lived on the border. East Stroudsburg South from my parents' house was 9 miles. For me to get to North, 17. It was ridiculous. Add in athletics. I was not getting home until almost 10 o'clock at night. Never mind homework. These children cannot sit on a bus for this long. I lived it. I know what it's like. And I'm surprised that nobody else is coming up and speaking about this because those were the hardest days of my life. There's somebody sitting in this room today that I probably saw last in this building, and the only reason why I know who she is was because I coach ESYA, and I saw her 4 years ago when I started coaching. That is how you disconnect from all of your friends, from all the people that you grew up with, that we are going to be planning to do to all of these students, my children, that have made their friends and their connections in the school. JM Hill needs to be redone. It needs renovations. It does not need to close. We need to allocate money into that building. I am a business owner. I own 3 daycares. It is bizarre to me that we are not looking into financials. I did not go buy a daycare without looking at every single detail and the money that went into it, all the stats that go into it. I looked at every option I had. You have to. You don't buy a car of the first car that you go. You need to look at everything. Our students and the children are the most important people that we need to take into consideration. JM Hill needs to stay. And combining this district after everything that we went through and I lived it, it shouldn't be an option. I'm sorry. But thank you for your time.
Good morning, guys. My name is Michael Ellis. Live in Smithfield Township. Been here my whole life. Graduated from JM Hill, all that mushy wushy. But, you know, at the end of the day, I understand public school is a business. Money in, money out. There's three key topics that I'm going to talk about: the money, transportation, and safety. So when it comes to operating as a business, we understand money comes in as taxes, us as taxpayers, but we don't even know where the money's going. You know, we could sit here and talk about closing school is going to make more money come in and move money around to do other things, but we don't even see those other things being taken care of right now. I have a student at JT Lambert. You guys made it a 4-lane or 2-lane entrance and exit that isn't feasible for vehicles at time of pickup or drop off. That's a priority for safety. That should be taken care of now. High School South is a disaster in the morning. It's only a matter of time until a student gets hit, walking in and out from the side of Dunkin' Donuts. That's something that should be taken care of now, not later. What are we waiting for? All of this money that we're spending should be money spent on safety for our students now, not later. Transportation. I was in transportation for years, 4 years, not years like, sorry guys, I know you guys have like 30, right? 4 years I was in transportation. Oh, thank you. Listen, go from the Inner Bridge up to north. In your POV, go in the speed limit, and clock how long it takes you. Now imagine putting those kids on Washington Street, Lincoln Avenue, and all that area, ESU area, putting them on a bus and traveling them up north, and vice versa. Look up to PMLE and drive south in your POV. Not even a bus. It'll take you 30, 40, 50 minutes to get down and off that mountain. Now imagine putting these kids in a bus for that long. Exactly. That's 30 minutes, 40 minutes in your POV, your personal owned vehicle. Now put them in a bus with 10, 15, 20, 25 stops. Secondly, buses now, we've been running the same bus schedule since I moved up here in '94, and transportation is still a disaster 30 years later. Imagine, which all of us as parents know, every morning we're getting phone calls on buses being transferred, students being moved, and we haven't figured busing out, we haven't figured out our transportation for 30 plus years. Now we're going to start over? We can't even figure out what we're doing now.
Okay, well, thank you. I have to say that I feel that we have done a wonderful job at JM Hill, because it is obvious that you are connected in a community, and that is our job in our schools. So thank you for coming out. From here, the next steps will be to take all of your questions and lay them out, and then we will send some information out with items that we're able to answer now, and then stay tuned for future events, and then the board meeting in February, where we take the survey. If you're able to respond, we take those survey responses and then continue the discussion. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being engaged, and have a good afternoon. Oh, I'll do it. Finance Committee is this Monday, all via Zoom because our boardroom is under construction, at 5:30. Yep, absolutely.